Just a few fellas on a podcast, riffing in the pitching jokes and sharing some laughs. Rob Ryan, Bledra, Jerry Bernstein. Ooh, they want to know if it's something, if it's anything. Often featuring Leedy Corbin.
I've been on a real writing tear the entire time that I've been on tour, and leading up to the tour, I was like going through my slush pile, like, oh God, I gotta find some turds that I can polish in here, you know. And I'm sure looking back over the things I've brought to the group, if you looked at those episodes, you'd be like, oh yeah, this is really C-list material here. But ever since I got back on tour, I've got like 3 or 4 new things that I'm excited about trying.
That's great.
When it rains, it pours, huh?
When it rains, it pours. Oh my God. Leedy, are you as excited as I am to tell everybody about the shit show that's been going on?
I've been wanting to catch up for weeks.
Oh,
I have
wow. We can just do that. Patreon episode.
You haven't called me though.
I haven't called you. I've been texting you. Yeah, I know. Since you said I don't like receiving calls.
No, I said I don't like phone calls.
Great reason to not call
but I did not say that just like while you're on tour. I just said in general, I don't like phone calls, but you can call me anytime. Because
I know, and I'm the same way. I don't especially like phone calls either.
Okay, well that's part of it.
Hey, baby, how's tour going? I hate phone calls. Just a heads up.
That's just, I've known Brett for years. That's how he answers the phone. That's not on you, lady.
Yeah,
I hate phone calls. That was my act out to do, Jarret. You know it.
Sorry.
But yes, Jarret, yes. So
Go for Brett, who hates phone calls. So I'm going to kick it to Leedy because the things that I want to talk about, I think happened after the things that Leedy wants to talk about. So Leedy, you start us off on this catch-up because, oh boy, is there a whole bunch of business here.
Okay. We went to a trampoline park, and then we did poker, and then we went to Meow Wolf, and then what else happened? Then I was on Stranger Things, and then we went to this crazy Airbnb in LA, and then we went to the Magic Castle, which was insane. And then we ate at this diner with these awesome shakes, and now we're here.
This sounds like a dream you had.
Yeah, there's too many things there. You don't have to rush through if there's anything more you wanted to say about those individual things, Leedy.
The Magic Castle was 21 plus, and that was really annoying.
Oh, no. Wait, does that mean you couldn't get in?
No.
Just means that, okay.
Means that crimes were done.
Which when I told my parents, they went, is that a felony?
We plead the fifth.
No felonies were committed, folks.
And no animals were harmed.
So does that mean that you were able to go, but you couldn't drink, and that bummed you out? Or
I'll tell you after the stream.
I see.
I see. We are not going to fall for this, detective.
She was just stealing shit the whole time. She's like, I'm already committing crimes.
I'm gonna make this.
Eventually, she stole so many things that she was able to build her own magic castle right next door.
Also, we pet dogs. We went to Best Friends LA.
That's cool.
I went to Best Friends when we went to, was it in Utah that we went? And so much fun. So I'm jealous that they got to do another Best Friends in Los Angeles.
I go to Best Friends every time we do this podcast together.
Oh,
yeah.
Brett.
That was gonna be my joke. I love that.
Oh, sorry.
Everybody's stealing Rob material today.
Yeah. You want to do an act out or?
I was gonna say you guys are my best friends. I got to do Best Friends Fort Wayne, Indiana. I get to do Best Friends.
Oh boy. Another catch up. The last venue that we had before we lost Bowers was this crazy ass place where when Steve described it, he says the inmates run the asylum, and the green room had this weird eagle-headed mannequin with big boobs and like a dominatrix costume on.
So what
venue is
in order to get into the green room, you had to open like a fake bookshelf door, which was kind of cool. But it was a lot bigger than I was, so I had to put like all of my strength into opening this thing.
Nothing like getting to the green room where you can relax after a nice workout.
I know.
Every time you want to go in and out.
You know what's even worse is that the green room door was basically on stage. So every time I would have to go in, the audience would just see me like, yeah. And then it didn't close all the way so they could hear us. And it was something.
There's a subreddit called Awful Design But Great Execution, or Awful Taste But Great Execution. And it's just things that are like really well designed, but they're just awful. Like just like taste wise, or just there's something going on. Like where you're like, why did you spend this much time making your Ferrari into a Buzz Lightyear Ferrari?
That is this whole Airbnb that we're at, actually. I feel like this is really weird.
That's most Airbnbs, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boy.
The kitchen should be the bathroom should be the kitchen, I think. And the kitchen is weirdly in the doorway. Yeah. And the bathroom has a padded bench so that you can stare at people.
But we're skipping ahead here.
Sorry.
So I would want to say one thing when we were trying to get Leedy to confess to crimes on the Zoom. I thought that'd be a really funny, interrogator technique. Like, hey, got a really rough suspect in there. I think we might need to do good cop, Zoom cop. or
might have to do good cop, podcast cop.
Yeah, exactly. So he tricks him into being like, hey, do you want to do my podcast sometime?
That's hilarious.
So you are somebody who does drugs. Like, where do you usually buy those and from whom?
I love that bit as I think you could do that in general. I don't think that has to be specific to this because so many podcasts that I will listen to or YouTube channels or whatever, people are admitting to some crazy shit. And it seems like it's above the law. Like, hey, tell me about that time you broke into that. And I'm like, what are you admitting to? This is crazy. But because you're on Steve-O's podcast, you don't feel like you're going to get arrested for this.
You guys are cool, right? This audience of a couple million.
Yeah, I've always been curious about that, and I mean, I've kind of followed suit. I feel like there's some kind of protection under the guise of that this is comedy, so you can always be like, oh, it was comedy.
Yeah.
There's a performance.
None of those. I wasn't on the record. You didn't get me to swear in a Bible.
Yeah, when someone talks to me after this podcast to ask me about this whole thing, that is precisely what I'll say.
Perfect.
And you go.
What about when they ask you about that part where you said that that's what you're gonna say when they ask you about
I'll
it?
say that was the same. That was also part of the comedy.
Are you a cop? Is this a cop cast? You have to tell me if this is a cop cast. Which they don't, by the way. Anyways, okay. So we're in San Francisco. We've been doing shows in San Francisco for the last couple of days. And everything in San Francisco is difficult. San Francisco is a terrible city. The public transportation is terrible. Walk around is terrible. The lifts are terrible. Traffic's terrible. There's everything is so inconvenient and terrible in San Francisco.
But the homeless people are having a great time.
They sure are.
I'm telling you, every time I go to San Francisco, I'm like, these are the happiest homeless people I've ever seen. They are hanging out. They're roasting each other. It's just a blast. It looks like a blast.
Well, yeah. Well, Leedy and I went to go get banh mi sandwiches yesterday, and because we were trying to find a scooter, the scooter apps were not working. San Francisco. This is the libertarian nightmare that every tech bro dreams of. Nothing works and there's a million things. So
perfectly put.
Thank you. So after trying to get the scooters to work for a little while, we were like, why don't we just walk, And we passed through all these super gross neighborhoods because, again, San Francisco. But every homeless person that we passed had a radio that they were playing super fun music in. And then we'd be dancing next to these people, And it's just I don't know what your deal is. There's a guy who just scoots around with his music playing all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I guess they're having a great time, to Brett's point.
Some person with a panda head and a panda tail walked by.
Yeah. And I was like, is this person going to an event or do they just not have any regular masks left over? They were wearing a panda head. Anyways. So one of the things is that there's been a real crime wave happening in San Francisco, people breaking into car windows. And so Steve's been very concerned about the tour bus. And he's been leaving the tour bus at a friend of his house every night because he doesn't trust the area near the hotel. Sure. But then afterwards, now that we don't have any shows and we're just hanging in San Francisco for a couple of days, he was like, I'm going to move you guys to an Airbnb outside of the city, and then you can leave the car there and it'll be safe. And we were like, okay, fine. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass because it's 40 minutes from the city. So we're going to go to Alcatraz today, and it's going to be difficult to get there. But, this is what we're doing. We're here to make sure that the car is a little bit safer than it would be in San Francisco. So yesterday, we all get into the car. We drop off Steve. We're staying in the city. We take the car out to the Airbnb. The Airbnb is bananas. Our bus is very big, and the streets here are at 90-degree angles up, and we're just navigating this massive car through these winding up and down streets crazy. Yeah. And there's it's very awkward to park it on the street because then you have to get out of the car at a 60-degree angle, and you're worried that you're going to be falling over and dropping all your stuff. The Airbnb, as Leedy mentioned, is completely bananas. There are 3 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, and there's a tub in the living room, and the tub doesn't work. There's a bench next to the tub if you want to watch somebody take a bath.
But the bench doesn't work.
The bench doesn't work either. You try to sit on it.
Fills with water.
Makes you ride a bike. You know? So then we were like, we were hungry at this point, and I was high. So we were like, let's go get some food. So, because also there's nothing around here. So we'd have to like drive to go get food and stuff. So we get into the car. We find out there's an In-N-Out really close to here. And we're driving to the In-N-Out. And I say to everybody, should we get our In-N-Out and then go back to the Airbnb and eat there? And everyone's like, yes. The car is too big to go through the drive-thru. So we park it right in front. We go into the In-N-Out. We get our sandwiches. Rivers is like, hey, are we eating here or are we doing to go? And I'm like, we're doing to go, remember. He goes, okay, great. We all get our food to go. We go outside. I hear River go, someone's breaking into the bus. And I was like, good one. And then I see the broken window and I'm like, oh, you weren't joking. Oh, shit. And then we see a car speeding away and there's like some bystanders being like, those are the ones that did it. And River's just like, what do you want me to do? Race after this guy? I'm Terminator 2. I'm just going to go after this dude. So now we just got like this busted window and we're like, all right, well, did they get anything? And, we look around and Rivers is like, no, I caught him just as he had his like hand in there trying to undo the door. So if we had eaten there, we wouldn't have caught this guy. He would have just broken into our bus and ransacked the fucking thing.
And
but
Jarret's
now we have
bag
a broken
was in the bus.
Oh, and my bag was in the bus too. So I would have been real pissed about that.
And also probably all the equipment.
Yeah, all the equipment as well.
But think about the GoFundMe.
Jarret, I gotta pause you here and say that, like, I know you're a professional comedian, storyteller, all that good stuff. This was very strangely put. I mean, you gotta tier up what is important and what's not important. You're like, I'm sitting there, there's guys, on the street, San Francisco, there's hills, and then we go. I'm like, I'm literally zoning out because you're
at the beginning of this episode.
Especially after giving Leedy notes on the way she was storytelling.
I didn't give her notes. I said you can go into more detail if you want. I felt like she was rushing.
Oh, okay. Maybe you should take a note from her.
I'm feeling very attacked on this episode today.
We love you, buddy.
It's because I was frustrated coming in here that you guys were like, ooh, okay. Yep. I think we're going to turn up my personal spice meter here. We're turning Brett's spice up to 10. We're turning Rob's spice up to 10. Rob's spice goes up to 11.
No, when you're editing the episode, you will see that your storytelling right now, I am like almost zoning out because I'm like, okay, Jarret hates everything. I get it. Airbnb, this and that. The car got broken into? That's the lead.
I was building up tension. You gotta understand.
I think he's like setting the mood as to where we are, like emotionally.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not prepared to handle this, even though it would have been difficult regularly, but we're also not prepared to handle this.
Our spice meters have been
up for a while. They've been up for a long time. And also, yes, I will admit I'm a little weed hungover today, so I'm sure I'm more rambling than.
Did you mention that San Francisco has done this like groundbreaking approach to? We will not prosecute you if you do less than $1,200 worth of theft.
I did hear about that. I don't know any of the specifics of it, but I did hear about it. This is the
result.
Wow.
Yep.
That was how it was when we were in San Francisco last year. And I remember because we were making tons of jokes, like the hotel that we were coming into, they were just like, I guess they were getting new chairs or something like that. And or like new furniture and stuff like that. And then we were like, oh, there's the crime policy in action. They're just taking all the stuff from the hotel.
Yeah.
I love the idea of someone just like holding some like really nice crystal. Like, hey, how much is this? That's $900. Whoa, whoopsie. Go fuck yourself.
Okay, perfect.
Also that you're trying to you're stealing stuff and you're like, oh, that's over my limit.
You only go up to the cashier so that they can ring you up. And it's like, all right, that's $1,190. All right, perfect. And you just grab everything and run.
Right, yeah.
Or you get everybody in the store to do Price is Right style. You're like, $1,200.
How much is this?
Up.
1201. You get arrested. So Jarret, I will empathize with you that sometimes I've had crazy days or weeks or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, that was crazy. I can't wait to tell someone. Oh my God, that was so weird. I can't wait to tell someone. And then something really ridiculous happens, and I'm like, oh man, like now all the other stuff doesn't even matter because this thing is so much of a bigger story. Anyway.
Well, that's the thing is like, you got to be like, all right, small inconvenience, small inconvenience, small inconvenience. All these add up to a big inconvenience, and then all of a sudden there's the biggest inconvenience on top of all that.
I don't know. We'd have to debate that, I guess, about what would be the best way to.
This is my personal philosophy towards storytelling. Okay, so the broken window is a fucking thing now.
Before you continue, I just want to say thank you to Steel Mold and the Grim Retails for subscribing for another month. Steel Mold has subscribed for 5 months,
guys.
and Grim Retail has subscribed for 4 months. So we really appreciate that.
Well. Sounds like somebody enjoyed my story, at least.
They did that before the story started. Actually,
I disagree.
Then they liked my story.
So
exactly. Thank you, Leedy. You're the best.
I think it was Leedy's story that did it. That clinched it. Okay. So now the broken window's a fucking thing. And this is where the guilt starts to come in because we've all got our to-go food hanging out and I'm high as a kite and Leedy doesn't drive. So Rivers is the person who is responsible for taking care of all of this. Ooh, and it's like, we can be zero help at this point. And so I was just like sitting in the back with my food and I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to take, but I'm so hungry and I'm so high and I love In-N-Out. So I just started eating all my food and Rivers is handling everything. He's talking to Steve about all this business. They're trying to figure out the contingency plans. They're trying to get the car fixed by today so we don't have to worry about leaving the car out on the street with an open window.
And while he's talking to Steve, Steve is telling us, this is a real problem, guys. And we're like,
yeah.
Thank you.
Is it?
Thank you, person who's not a part of it.
Is it really? Is it really?
It doesn't have to deal with any of it. Okay.
Yeah. And
can you guys unrob the bus? Can you talk to somebody?
In Steve's defense, if Jarret told him the story the way he just told me the story, then I might have to differentiate between what is a real problem or not.
Rivers was handling everything. And I wasn't in the back going, did you tell him about the hills? And did you tell him about the scooters? Did you tell him about the banh mi?
And what about the bench?
And what about the bench
in the Airbnb?
In the Airbnb. That's
Jarret,
weird.
this is a real problem.
But also your mouth is full of food.
Keep in mind that all of this is happening because Steve said we're gonna put you far away so that the car is safe. That's the whole point.
I like that you're like nobody watching knows this right now, but we were going to have Rivers on, and it became too complicated because of the internet and microphone situations. We were like, oh, we're not going to do it. But it was mostly Jarret was like, I just don't think we'll just have him back another time. But it's funny to me that you're like, I feel really guilty. Rivers had to take care of everything. A little inconvenient. You're not going to do the podcast today.
And I fought hard to get him on the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. He's on.
There it is.
Counts.
And Jarrett's like, no, it's not.
I told you we'd get him on. He just walked by. There, look at Rivers.
No, Rivers.
Hey.
Jarret wanted to go to In-N-Out, but instead we went to Smash and Grab.
Hey!
Excellent.
Oh, man.
You see, sharing microphones doesn't work. I couldn't
certainly
even understand
doesn't.
what he said.
I had a million things that I wanted to add to that, but I couldn't because he had my microphone. So Rivers is being a fucking hero. He's being a Superman and Batman rolled into one, taking care of all of this. And the solution, I don't even know why this is the solution, but the solution was to drive the car to some place that was like 30 or 45 minutes away from here to get the car fixed, but the car wouldn't be fixed in time for us to use it at all today, probably. So then so Steve drove a car to Rivers, which was super far away, drove Rivers back to the Airbnb. Then he drove himself back into the city. So now we're here at the Airbnb, carless. We're supposed to go to Alcatraz in a couple hours. We don't know when the car is going to be finished. I don't even know where the car is.
We're supposed to go to Alcatraz for fun, though, right?
Yeah. No, Leedy's not getting arrested for Magic Castle thing. You know.
Well, no. I meant not like, oh, this is a thing we have to do for the show or something. Like me in this situation, I would be like, oh, okay, things are crazy. We're just gonna stay at the Airbnb. But instead of being like, oh, we gotta go to Alcatraz, we gotta figure that out. I'm just like, let's just not do that.
We gotta break in. Sean Connery's here.
I know nobody here is part of this decision, but I just want to get on the record that I'm fine with canceling Alcatraz because of how stressed out this whole thing has fucking made me.
I would be, but my parents are in town. So now, as opposed to me just being responsible for myself, I am also responsible for the activity of my
we'll
family.
go to Alcatraz. We'll go to Alcatraz. I'm excited about it. We're going to go to Alcatraz.
I never wanted to cancel it.
Never, ever. You have no evidence,
Was that okay with that?
Cop. You have no evidence that I ever wanted to not go to Alcatraz. Well, freaking system's out of order.
And where's the van now?
The van is somewhere getting fixed. Only Rivers and Steve know where that place is, though.
Well, they had to keep it secret because of all the crime.
That's right.
What if you got it fixed in a place that was too close to where you got broken into and it got broken into again?
yeah, maybe this is an inside job, and me and Leedy might know. And if they tell us where the car is, then we're going to send our goons there again.
Got it. Okay, cool.
All right. Well, it sounds fun and really stressful, and I in no way feel vindicated in not signing up to go on this tour.
I think you made the right move.
We should probably get to the jokes. I will tell you that I went to my cousin's wedding on Sunday, and I had so much fun. I was like a little bit like, oh man, COVID, I don't know. And then eventually I was like, if I'm going to get COVID, I'm going to get COVID. And then I was drinking with my siblings, we're dancing.
Oh, nice.
My dad, who we are constantly battling to like get him to use his walker, because his like balance isn't great, just like shunned his walker and then went on the dance floor and like held it down. He just got up and started going, and I was like, I can't. All I could do is make sure he doesn't fall. So I like followed him, and it was just like so much fun. I haven't had like an outing like that in a long time. But also I noticed that when you know what it is, I think when old people dance, it feels to me like they're making fun of everybody else who is dancing, like the way that they're like.
Oh, is this it? Look at that. Yeah, that's really funny.
Like the faces they make, I'm like, all right, relax.
I gotta say, I love the tone shift of your catch-up, Brett, because oh god, it's a nightmare of Armageddon. I went to a wedding and it was really fun.
You had a great time. Rob, anything good? Any quick catch-ups from you?
I'm just trying to think about how I would have told Jarret's story.
Oh my god.
I'm reshaping it in my mind.
Jarret, it's gonna be okay.
Rob, do you need me to make you a smash cut of you telling a story, Rob, and all the tangents that you make?
On this episode of I'm Not Crazy, You're Crazy.
Yeah. Oh my god. Leedy, you just got a job as my new segment producer for I'm Not Crazy, You're Crazy.
This might be a 3-part series, I think. For I'm Not Crazy.
Actually, you know
I
what?
wish I brought my glasses on the road with me. So go, well. How about this?
Yeah.
Well, I will say I agreed with Rob's initial assessment, but as somebody who is not a very good storyteller, after Jarret's defense, I kind of am like, yeah, that was the best way to tell the story. Maybe you could have taken out a couple details to just tighten it up, but I would think, yeah, this thing's going wrong, and then, whoa, mama.
Again, I'm not saying my execution was perfect. Weed hangover. But I still think the criticism is a little untoward.
Ooh, well, let's think about who fired shots first.
It looks like we got an episode of I'm Not Untoward, You're Untoward.
I was accused of merely trying to problem solve that somehow I am purposefully trying to get under Jarret's skin, which was absolutely incorrect.
I will happily retract my accusation. I apologize. I feel like I thought you were going to be like, yeah, I am. But since there's pushback,
no, I genuinely.
Since there's pushback, I will say that I fully believe that this was just the inherent joy of trying to solve a problem.
Oh, yes.
All right. Anything else? Should we get to business? Should we get to jokes?
Let's do some jokes.
Ooh.
Let's get this. So yeah, everybody guess your order. We got a JRB in there and an RBJ.
Oh, sorry, no winners this week. We got
sorry,
our order
folks.
this week is BJR. Brett,
Hey,
Jarret,
BJR.
Rob.
All right.
Brett, Jarret, Rob.
I tried to meditate drunk. My chakras were definitely not aligned. I slurred the shit out of my mantra. My breathing was pretty good, though. I blew a 0.09.
Yeah, you kind of hit all the meditation, or at least a good portion of the meditation nonsense that people say.
Oh, I was thinking to do for like a mantra. I don't know if this would work enough, but if like just to do an example of like I slurred the shit out of my mantra, I was like, is that enough of like? Do we all know that it's like it's usually
like an some kind of.
But the would differentiate enough.
I wouldn't mind an act out of the mantra. I think it'd be funny to slightly change the mantra to be something like, you know, when you're drunk, you kind of just like have a phrase that's like bouncing back and forth in your head. You know, it's like, it's not my fault.
Yeah. Crazy, you're crazy.
I said I was sorry.
I'm not really in charge, so why would you blame me?
He told me to go left, so I went left. Told me to go left, so I went left.
I'm a pretty good guy. People like me.
What was the chakra thing again?
My chakras were definitely not aligned. I was trying to think of if there was a better way. My chakras were crooked, but I feel like chakras aligned. I don't know if it's in people's brains enough already.
Yeah.
For me to be like crooked, that's enough of a play on it. So I think I just have to say just not aligned.
Yeah, I do like that. It's like this, if you're drunk, you have to like try to walk a line, and you can't do that. That's like part of the sobriety test. So,
Right.
So I do it. Yeah, that totally tracks.
Yeah, I was like thinking like my chakras were wobbly or swervy or something, but it just didn't. I don't know.
I think you're missing an opportunity there for how fun it would be to try to say chakras when you're drunk. That's a perfect word for it. Just chakras. Chakras.
This is a totally different joke, really, but my mind started going
Aren't
towards like
birds kind of weird in the morning.
I was trying to think of the comparison between being drunk and meditating, and just the idea of like, I don't know, like when I'm drunk, I feel like it's close enough. It's like, I stare off into space for long periods of time. My head is completely clear. And then we could do the mantra thing. Like I always got some kind of phrase I'm repeating to myself over and over again. That's not my fault. It's your fault.
That actually works in perfectly because it's a good justification as to why I meditated drunk. I'm like, I thought it would be easy. I'm already doing all the things.
My mind is already pretty empty.
Yeah, mine's empty. The thing. And then my breathing, with the breathing thing too.
I love sitting in a comfortable position. I'm sitting on the ground.
Yeah, I'm sitting. Yeah, it doesn't matter what's going on around me. I'm locked in.
Is there a way to phrase it so that we find out that your meditation position was just like face down in a gutter?
That's like the
cops like, hey, come on, buddy, you gotta get up. I'm like, I'm meditating.
I'm in the crow position.
It's throwing off my energy.
Don't you know chakras? Did you tell my chakras?
Those are some good notes. I have another one. If you guys have anything else for that, I can move on. If you don't, I feel like something that's wrong with us in general is that we are so certain in our convictions of things that we don't actually know for a fact, that we weren't there, or that we just don't know for sure. The Amber Heard trial is like a pretty good example. Everybody's like, "Oh, she's the worst," and Johnny Depp's the best, but it's like but you still don't know. You were not there. You're just going based off of your interpretation. And so I always try to like check people on that stuff. Like sometimes I'll post a picture and somebody will make a comment on my package. They'll be like, "Ooh, look at that bulge." I'm like, "That's all pubes." But you guys didn't think that's where I was going with this joke.
Certainly not.
That was good.
Something that's weird / funny about this bit is that the justification doesn't seem to literally justify why you're bringing up the people talking about your package thing, because that seems like a weird enough thing. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's like, everyone hears that and is like, oh yeah, that's the internet for you, But I think that's such a funny idea by itself that as soon as I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, that's a separate joke. That's its own thing. I could be wrong about that.
Oh, like if somebody leaving a comment, it's just like a novel thing you're saying? That
like it
seems interesting?
Somebody being like, here's a stand-up comedian, I'm going to talk about their package, is its own thing. Where if I was listening to the first part of that joke and then I heard that, I would be like,
oh, yeah. So, yeah. I see what you're saying. Like, people talk about like thirst online, and I mean, it happens to everybody. Like, even me, a slightly... like a kind of cute, a little bit overweight, stand-up comedian who's slouching on stage. People be like, ooh, I'll get a comment that's like, oh, check out his bulge. And I'm like, you don't know what's going on there.
That's all pubes.
You don't know it's not pubes.
Well, now if I'm an audience member hearing that, I would react like, that's insane, Brett. Of course you'd be sexually harassed. Look at you. You're so cute. Yeah. And you got a great bulge.
Look at you. Look at you with your bulge.
The entire time I've been sitting here watching you do stand-up being like, I can't wait to tell someone about this guy's bulge. I can't wait.
To be clear, I added that first thing in just for fun, but really the joke idea was I thought it was very funny. It was just like, I could have easily cut that joke to when somebody's like, oh, hey, look at that guy's bulge. I'm be like, you don't know what that means. That could be pubes.
Do people talk about your bulge when you post something?
Occasionally, I get a thirsty.
Leedy does it.
Well, Leedy does it no matter what's going on. If I'm, if I'm asleep or I'm huddled in the kitchen, she can't even see it. She's like, "Ooh, there's a bulge behind there. I know it."
You're right. Like the beginning part is is just extra, but it adds to the non sequiturness of it. Without it, it's fun and silly, and I like that anyway. It could be all pubes. I don't know if I like the joke more with or without that thing, because it just makes it that much more silly, and you're like, that's not where I thought any of that was going. It almost seemed like you were trying to make a profound point, and then it wound up being not even close. So it does make it more fun.
I agree, Rob.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find a more concise way to do that, because I was kind of bumbling through it.
If cleaned up and it sounds like you're about to make a real point about the things we don't know, and why we should probably keep our comments to ourselves, type of thing. And you're like, you don't know, it could be all pubes. Stupid.
Yeah, this is a joke about the nature of objective truth. And it then becomes...
That's not my dick, it's pubes. Is it funnier to say that's not my dick, it's pubes, or to have somebody go, or to tell somebody like, you don't know that's not pubes?
No, I think it's funnier if it's you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually just straight up, it's pubes. It's definitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's pubes.
It's one dreadlock.
Oh God.
Even pubes is assuming a lot. That could just be one super long pube.
Well, I think you have to have a really thick hair follicle.
No, if it's just long
just
enough and it has to
pube.
keep on wrapping.
Like a comb over.
Yeah.
No, more like chromosomes, like DNA.
Okay.
The worst.
No, that's like a braid.
Gonna be.
Yeah.
The DNA is a braid. You need 3 strands. How many strands are there in DNA?
No, you're right. There's like a double helix. True.
Right,
I was thinking more
right.
like the actual like chromatin that's all stretched out. It then coils up into coils, and then those coils coil into supercoils. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah,
of
like
packing.
an old school phone cord.
Yeah.
Ah.
Exactly.
Or like a payas. You know how Jews have them?
That's how I imagine your pubes to be like, and then you have to roll it all up and just stuff it up into your underwear.
I feel like there's multiple Asian, like there's Chinese, the top knot, and then there's something to do with like old school, like having a long ponytail type thing in the back. And then I know the samurai had a top knot that was really important, and they had to like coil it in a certain way. So probably something like that.
And like, so if Brett ever like lost his pubes, he'd lose his honor.
And he'd have to perform sepukak. Sepukak?
Sepubku.
Sepukku. There you go. We got to find a Japanese person to help us with this pun. Well, this has sufficiently gone on the rails. Drug, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Great stuff.
Next up, we got Jarret Bernstein.
Hey, Jarret Bernstein.
Okay.
I did want to get a mapping the human genome pube pun in there, but I couldn't find it. Landscaping the human genome. There we go.
We did it, everybody.
We did it. We performed.
Sorry, Jarret. Go ahead.
Balloons. Balloons. Okay. This one's got like a longer act out in it, which I don't love to do, but you guys tell me what you think about this. All right. My fiance watches The Bachelor, and she told me that they restrict almost all of the media that you're allowed to see when you're on that show. You're not allowed to watch television. You're not allowed to use your phone. You're not allowed to read the news. The crew can read the news, but you can't, which is funny if you think about the day that Trump got elected. Like all these women in their sparkly dresses are doing their confessionals. Like, I'm really hoping to get some alone time with Carter tonight on our group date. Is everything okay? You guys seem really distracted. Oh, keep going? Okay. I can't believe we're going to Morocco. I'm sorry, but 70% of the PAs are looking at their phones and they're crying, especially the women and minorities. Did something happen? Did something I'm not allowed to know? Well, why is everyone saying goodbye to Esteban? They're hugging him like he got fired or something. What do you mean? What? He might have to leave the country? Why? I'm not allowed to know. Okay, fine. I guess just keep going. Do I have an IUD? That's a weird question. No, I don't. Why do you ask? What the hell do you mean, uh-oh?
What's the IUD thing?
That's because when Trump got elected, everybody was like, well, that means he's got the Supreme Court seats, which means that's the end of Roe versus Wade. So,
gotcha. Okay.
Ladies, you got to get your ID. That might be more of a liberal rabbit hole thing, and maybe a normal person wouldn't have that at the tip of their fingertips. But maybe the Esteban thing is more.
If Roe v. Wade hadn't just happened, I would have gone there immediately. But because it's just happened now, I just like it threw me off a little bit. Like, oh no, that's the thing that happened while Biden was president. Now,
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the end of the bit. Anyways, so what do you guys think?
I love it. I think it's a great setup. anytime Trump comes in, I'm like trodden territory, but you did it so well. And I think it is really funny. And actually now I'm starting to, I realize I'm starting to now appreciate it more because it's like, thankfully it's been like a while since he was like constantly in the news. Like every thing I open up on Twitter is Trump. But like, it's just such a nice break of like, oh, now I can appreciate a Trump joke. You know?
I mean, I feel bad. I have I have some jokes in my set right now that don't really get into Trump so much as they just sort of like scrape the surface of like what it was like when Trump was president. And even I feel bad saying that. And every point where I've been able to change in those jokes, Trump to just Republicans or the Republican Party, I feel like it makes it a better joke. Because I have that instinct still where I'm just like, nobody wants to hear about this. We're all over it. We're all done with it. But
I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of time passed for a thing that we all remember. At least if you're progressive, like we remember this was a dark thing, and it's like now I think it's like the perfect amount of time where it could be like it's a dark thing, but it's been over for long enough that we could probably have a good laugh at it. And so I think it is like a great example and route to go down.
Thanks. I think that I echo those sentiments where it seemed as if it was like, this is a great premise, but we're not wasting it, but we're using this premise, this idea of not being in the know for news, and then we're going all the way back to this Trump thing. But then I was like, oh yeah, all the examples that you gave were like, oh, that's a good example. Oh, that's fun too. So it kind of pulled it back around for me as well.
I mean, I guess COVID might be a thing that could be used instead, but I don't know, maybe COVID is big enough where they would have like actually told everybody what was going on.
I would feel more annoyed if you were doing COVID as like, oh God, we've heard it. I'm hearing it in every set.
And if it was like nothing is as well, we thought something was going to happen the day before, and then it didn't happen the day after. COVID was a very sloppy rollout of like, the people who were in the know saw it coming. The people who didn't never did. All that kind of stuff.
It really was a one day explosion.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing else really had the exact like. Yesterday was different than today. Period. So for those reasons, I'm like, that might be the best news example because it did just all of a sudden whatever, and because so much time has passed. All of these things that may have just been like fears before, like some have very much, Roe v. Wade chief among them, come to fruition, being like, no, the some of the worst case scenarios have happened. This is exactly what the fears were heading down the road. So luckily, some of them didn't come to pass, but some of them certainly did. So
actually, that's a really good point. I think that may add to it almost. Me enjoying the joke more is because it's like when they hadn't come to pass, if they could, a joke about it just felt like, it was like, it gave me anxiety, But because even though it has happened and it's really bad, and obviously I'm a male, so I have the privilege of being like, fuck, that sucks, but it doesn't, it's only gonna affect me in third party ways. Yeah. I still am like, it's happened though, we're living in the reality now, so it does add a little bit more levity to look back on that. I will say the only thing that would throw off my statement that it has staying power is that if Trump gets elected again.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. I was also thinking maybe I could still use the IUD thing if I put in a bit like the lady's saying like why does everybody keep saying Roe? Like why does everybody keep saying that Roe is gone or something? I don't know. Maybe there's a way to tease that.
Rose? I don't get it.
Are you saying Rose v. Wade?
Should I stick with Wade? Is that what you're saying? He's the one for me?
I got a Rose. I didn't get a Wade.
Yeah, you either get a Rose or you wait away. Like that's all right. Anything else for this bit? I don't mind having a short turn today.
No, I think there's more points that you can hit, but none of them come to mind. I'm thinking one of the things I originally thought when you said like, I'm hoping to get some alone time with him, it was around like Me Too movement era. So I was like, oh, maybe there's going to be some like, oh, you shouldn't spend time alone with a man. Because there was that weird, but I don't think that would be as clear cut. So
gotcha.
I guess what other things did people who were like thinking about trying to move to Canada.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Is there any? Would there be any Republicans like on set that you could tinker with, as far as who might be?
Well, maybe there's
super stoked about the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe there's like one shitty camera guy who everybody hates, and it's like the only person who's happy about this is Gary. And I know that when Gary's happy, everybody else should be upset.
Yeah, right. There's someone who's celebrating for some reason.
Well, they would know essentially that the election is going on. I mean, depending on how out of the loop they really are, but they may be just assuming that Hillary won, and then they're just like, what the hell is Hillary doing that's making everybody so upset? Because that was the liberal belief, was like, oh, she's going to win, no problem.
Did something happen to Hillary?
It's so weird because when you say Hillary, it just conjures up this completely different image. Like, I don't even know, even at the time, if anybody was thinking like, yay, Hillary, as much as they were like, oh no, Trump. So
there were a lot of, at least women that I know personally, who were like, female president, hell yeah. And that was more the concern. Or like, no, female president, like, hell yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think even like the tankiest, hardcore leftist who was like, Hillary's corporate and she's establishment and nothing's going to change with her. I think even they would acknowledge like, but it's great that we have a female president.
Yeah, I don't know. It may be a totally different avenue, but the idea that like people are reacting and they're like inferring things that Trump's done, but they think that it's Hillary doing it, I think kind of tickles me a little bit.
Oh, I don't know. So the Muslim ban happened like pretty quickly afterwards, but not like that day. So I don't know if that would work.
Right.
But yeah, because the first thing that I could think of that he actually did was starting to put his cabinet together, and Steve Bannon being like this huge fucking thing, and everybody was like losing their minds, like, this guy's a white supremacist, he's going to be in the cabinet, like, are you crazy? But even that, I think, happened like a couple of days later.
Oh, they're all on set for The Bachelor for an extended amount of time, right? So you could still go into that, right?
Yeah. I was giving my note too. It's just like as long as you establish that it's like a 6-week or 2-month or whatever shooting schedule, then everything surrounding that time is pretty much fair game. It can be a continual thing. Every day you're like, okay, what's happening? Because like each day, like more information's unfolding. Where you're like, why, what, exactly. Why is Pedro upset now? And like the next day, it's like, I'm sorry, where did, where did Muhammad go? Muhammad was just here yesterday. He's gone.
Look at the exact shooting schedule and also look at like that timeline of all the things that Trump did. And it'd be really fun to lay that out.
Yeah. And then like the next day they're like this, and then the next day they're like this. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that could work 100%. There's no reason why it has to be like all in one evening on The Bachelor.
Can I please just watch the news? Why are you calling it fake all of a sudden?
At least let me go on Facebook. Oh, it's the worst there? Okay. I don't know what that means. Awesome. Thanks so much for all the notes.
Great premise. I love what a great pickup on a device,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people will give you super, super duper leeway. Like once you establish that it's an amorphous time period in which you're shooting, that shooting schedule, then it's just the time period, like the uncertainty, the whatever, the changes all of a sudden. Yeah, I like that a lot.
All right. Well, next up we got Rob Ryan. But before we get to that, just want to remind everybody, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/ITApod, the best Patreon on the block. We got awesome bonus episodes for patrons who subscribe for as little as $1 a month. There are also additional tiers where you can get stickers and discounts and cool materials. Patreon.com/ITApod. And next up we got Rob Ryan.
Hey!
Yay!
So I feel like I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with some of this stuff here. I've got a bunch of things I've like. These are all the jokes I've passed on earlier weeks, and I'm like,
oh, I know that feeling where you're like, oh god, like just like you had 3 or 4, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that one, and then that week comes where you're ready to go, you're like, oh boy,
I gotta go with this stuff.
Almost all of the past 6 episodes for me, that was that.
This feels like an actual joke. Okay. I personally love woke culture because for the first time in my career, my comedy is considered edgy. I'll be on stage. I'll be on stage like, so I'm a white guy, and the audience is like, can he say that?
That's great.
I don't know why I was so nervous about it, but yeah, that's the whole idea.
I took a girl out to get a drink. Oh.
Yeah, is this one of those things where it opens up to more, or is that just like...
No, I love it. I think there's a lot of... I think you need to have, for as many examples as you can think of something that is an edgy thing to say now, but used to not be an edgy thing to say, I think you need another example of how an audience would react to an edgy comedian. So I like the "Can he say that?" I like the he's about to say something, offensive. I'm not sure how much it would work if you had somebody like already getting offended. It might work. I'm not sure. But I like the kind of like the way that an audience who's on board for edginess would respond.
Oh, that's funny too. Yeah. And they're like licking their chops. Like,
Here we go. Like that kind of attitude.
Oh, give it to him. Yeah, it's like I'm attracting the wrong crowd. To keep it silly and irreverent, I would want the examples of things that I'm saying to not actually be like even, in the realm of something that's dicey. That way it's just like it's just nothing. Like absolutely, it's not even an actual opinion. So if I had more examples, it would be probably akin to that.
I was just visiting some family in Israel.
spit take.
What about just saying just assuming somebody's pronoun? Just like, oh, I saw a lady the other day.
What?
My cousin just had a baby girl.
I don't know if I can mime earmuffs to like a kid.
Or like I went into a men's bathroom the other day. Is there something that you could do to button it that's analogous that would be like kind of the opposite, where it may have been edgy 8 years ago, but now it's like, oh, okay. Like if you were like, police are all fucking cowards, and they'd be like, okay, but what's the bit? Like, where's the hot take?
Yeah.
Because it used to be
within the range
considered edgy now.
Yeah, within the range of the bit, you could go be like, but occasionally I'll try to be edgy, and it actually backfires.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a woman that everybody was universally like, fuck her, but then the more information that came out, they were like, oh, well, now we're on her side?
Monica Lewinsky?
Monica Lewinsky. Yeah, that might be a good
one.
example of you try to do like a Lewinsky blowjob joke and everyone's just like, boo, the media was so unfair to her. It was Bill Clinton. He was only 22 years old. He was in a position of power.
Oh, yeah, now you're making me think like if we just plucked a comedian from the early 90s and just put them on stage, like it's like their whole act would be reversed. Everything they thought was edgy, or whatever may not have been. Everything they thought was good is bad. Everything is bad is good. It was like, what's wrong with you people?
This is a totally separate thing, but I was discussing with my Gen Z cousin. I feel like Dave Chappelle is one more set about trans people and 10 years away from telling us that he's trans. It is getting to the, like, when I heard that he's working on new material about trans people, I was like, the man doth protest too much, and maybe a lady.
Right. I had this other thought. It's not really a joke, and I was wondering if it was a thing that I could, now since we're kind of talking in this realm here, it's cool enough to shit on men in the way that there's not even a preamble. Like, it's just, men are the worst. Everyone's like, yay. Like, that's the beginning of it. Or like, why do men even exist? And everyone's like, slay, girl. And it's like, I'm not like completely against it, but it just makes me laugh. Because like, when I would see guy comics tell like stupid, bad women jokes, there was always this like need to preface it with this like, don't be wrong, I love, my wife's the best, and you women, give it up for the women here. They're they do something that none of us can do. Oh, they're great, right? Woo! Anyway, here's why they're stupid, and then he makes some joke about women. And all I'm asking for as a man is that preamble. That's it. That's all. I just want a woman
Men are great.
to go
I
up
love
on
my
stage.
husband, but
Yeah. But they don't even do that. They're just like, they should be dead, and everyone's like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, just give me the little part where you go, hey, they go to war and they do other cool things and whatever. But
and they do other cool things.
Well, I think it's just because as a man, I don't need that. Better.
Wow.
And Anyway, if that was worded well, is that something that you'd be like, oh, that's funny, that's a funny observation or something?
If it's worded well, yeah, but you're surrounded by incel lava, and you have a good chance of falling into it. But it is definitely a true observation, and I think it's interesting.
I guess I'd need to keep it super silly because that's the whole point. I'm just like, yeah, tell us that we deserve to burn in pits and, we should all be castrated and,
right.
The world would be better if it was just women and, we're just a bunch of breeders anyway and we might as well just donate our sperm and kill us off. Just tell us that, you like it when we take charge and then tell us that we should die. Like then I'm cool with your jokes. then the eugenics of your bit is funny to me.
Michael B. Jordan makes me wet. Okay, now you can say whatever you want.
There we go. Now we're following. Now we're finding the rhythm of it. That's what I mean. Something.
Just say, God, men are great when you need a jar opened, and everything else is the worst.
Yeah. And we should systematically destroy them so that we can walk around safe at night.
Men should not be in charge of anything above getting rid of the spider. But I need them for the spider, though. Like, that's an important job that they can have.
That would be very funny if there's like this future world and it's just women, it's run by women and everything else. And then there's this like code red and like this cryogenically frozen man comes out and he's thawed. And he's just there to kill a spider, and then they put him right back in. You did your job. Smash. I'm back.
There's a comic that I actually think they turned into a show, but the reviews seemed like okay. But it is a great graphic novel called Why the Last Man, and it was about all of the men on the planet die simultaneously except for one guy.
Yay! No, sure.
Now, Leedy, what do we say now, Leedy? Guys are great, and I love one.
Jordan's good, I guess.
So it's great. They blow out. There's these roving gangs of like the Amazons. But there's one part where they have one of the very strong female characters has a breakdown because she can't open a jar, and it's great. Because it is an inside baseball thing, if you could just quote a joke from a 90s comedian, I would love that. Like this comic has this great joke where he goes like this, and then it's funny and stuff like that, but he starts it off by saying, this is this. And if he didn't, it would sound really, really bad.
What if you just told that joke about a man, the 90s comic man version, and then you did the now women and just see which one people laugh at?
This is an experiment now where I'm literally just gender swapping the thing.
Do a little thought experiment. See what people actually will laugh at.
Okay, so men be shopping then? All right. We'll give it a shot.
I take it back.
Men be shopping for guns.
That's legitimately funny. For guns. Anyway, that was cool. I'm glad we got to talk about those two ideas. Thanks, guys. Wonderful.
Woo! Right. I guess we all know what time it is now, right?
Time to pitch the Patreon again.
What?
Now it's time for Leedy to show us what she's done today while she was here listening and contributing and being our token female lady who we love, and she wouldn't be there even if it was good for us to have a woman on because we just enjoy her as a person. She's an individual and she's talented because she can draw well.
That reminds me, yesterday during the Q&A, someone was like, Steve, as a feminist, why no women on stage?
Did he revel in bringing you on stage afterwards?
Well, he said, well, my closer's a woman. And then she was like, oh.
Oh, he should have saved it. He should have been like, wow, you know what? You're right. And then when he brought you on stage,
Leedy Corbin.
Oh!
He also said like 2 female comics turned down this tour, but yeah.
When we were on the road, somebody asked, she said, how can you get people to be be okay with carbs? And I was like, you need to let people know that there are more things that are carbs that are good for you, like a pepper's a carb. And she's like, no, it's not. And then everybody was like, ooh. And I was like, yes, it is. And then Ander looked it up off stage while they took another question and then revealed that I was correct. And it was awesome. Because I got to be like, yeah, suck my dick. I think Jarret even said, yeah, suck his dick.
Which, fun fact, carbs. Yeah.
I think it's mainly protein.
Not with all those pubes.
That's true.
The pubes makes it carb.
First up, I have an unfinished drawing. That's just the Amazon woman trying to open a jar.
It's great. She got a man's head on a pike.
Yeah.
We have an Amazon woman struggling to open a jar with, she's a warrior woman, but also she has a man's head on a pike, but she's still struggling.
And then I've got, no, you're not going to break me. That's great content.
Excellent.
We got a policeman putting a unwilling handcuffed suspect onto a podcast. He's saying, "You're not going to break me."
There's Rivers, yeah.
And it was Rivers, yes.
Yeah.
No, Rivers isn't on this episode. We're having another one. We'll not give him identity there.
Then I have the spice meter.
Oh man, we are top
All
dog.
of our spices are off the charts right now.
Well, I'm fluctuating between. This is a spice meter, and Rob and Jarret are right at 10. I'm between a 9 and a 10, but I was late, so I think that's fine.
Then I have chakras.
We got drunk me, you saying chakras, and then passing out while still holding up my beer.
Then I have
Now we have me meditating and sipping a martini.
While homing.
Then I have
Hey. Mazel tov.
We have me in my bulge and pulling out a very long strand of dirty blonde curly pubes.
Oh, it's perfect. Oh my god. Ms.
It
Corbin,
looks like
you've
a very
outdone
long
yourself.
curly French fry.
Oh Jesus.
I wanted to make it like the magician who pulls the handkerchiefs out, but that would have been really, really hard to animate. So I did not do that.
What you did was perfect.
Thank you. That is it for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Leading Corbin.
Patreon.com/Leedy Corbin. Leedy
Oh,
Art
oh.
on Twitch, and Leedy Corbin on every social media.
Every social media. And also, I'm going to be in Edinburgh. And it looks like, guys, I got a job. It looks like, not a job, though, if whoever is in charge of visas is watching, because I'm
This is
not getting
comedy.
paid.
It's parody. It's satire.
It's satire. I'm not getting paid for this, but it looks
We
like
got
I'll
her.
be It looks
Rob,
like
Jarret, and I are all cops.
this whole time.
Your operation.
Yeah.
It looks like I'll be closing a show called The Set List, which is where a bunch of comedians have to improvise material. Nothing is pre-prepared. You get random subjects. It's really going to be fun. I'm really
Awesome. That's great.
Rock and roll. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for doing the show, everybody.
Yeah, let me read some highlighted comments here.
right.
3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and a bathtub. That's decorative. Are you sure you're not just in an IKEA? From Steel Mold. Steel Mold says, people who were in the know about COVID saw it coming ahead of time. People who are not in the know about COVID are still not in the know about COVID. Great. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for our people who are resubscribing. We really appreciate it. We will keep streaming whenever we are able to. And we love you guys and we appreciate you. And great episode to you, lady and guys.
Outro goes here.
Thanks so much for watching. Check back every Monday for new episodes, or you can listen wherever you enjoy podcasts. If you want to help support the show, tell your friends how much you like Is This Anything? Or get involved, like an episode, share, comment, subscribe. If you want more Is This Anything, you gotta join our Patreon at patreon.com/ITAPod. We have a ton of awesome exclusive content on there, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. Check out the links in the description, and hopefully we'll see you next week.